Okay, so our penultimate score is from Douglas. And Douglas, it's really great to see another score from you and also to have another ASCAP member, have a fellow ASCAP member here with their score represented. And yeah, I mean, I always feel that your scoring is very strong, has very cool ideas, and gives me a lot to talk about, even better. And I feel this is really a lovely score. Some particular things actually probably work better on the page than they do with Note Performer. So, anyways, it's actually a fairly large scale scoring in a lot of this. So I've reformatted the page so that we can sort of see more at once, and let's have a listen to it, and then I'll have some comments. Yeah, wasn't that lovely? So let's jump back to the beginning and, just give it all the diligence we can. And, notice it's just a basic standard full orchestra, double winds, and, 4-2-2 or 4-2-3-1 on the brass, timpani, and percussion, just some fairly standard percussion instruments. Orchestral bells, now this would just basically be glockenspiel, right? So, unless you had something else in mind, I'm going to assume that's Glock. And then harp, which notice the rolls are basically like in both hands. Well, we'll talk about that in a second. And then strings. Okay, now let's get back to the harp. Now, this is kind of strange. Pits, I think this is a copy and paste error there. Unless you had some specific technique in mind that I've never heard of. But yeah, but let's delete that. So yeah, now let's talk about these rolls, okay? This is what you want, Douglas, is you want this. And this is actually going to be a tip of mine. You want this. Oops, hang on. Oh, I see what you've done there. Yeah, okay. Okay, so you've actually written these out as separate lines. So let's just select those lines and delete them. Okay, so best way to get lines is to just go over here to the keypad and just select this. Now, there is a reason for using no arrow, right? Now, arrow up is the standard direction of rolls, correct? Right? You're rolling from bottom to top. Okay. Now, the problem with using up arrows for your rolls is that it suggests that there is a down arrow somewhere around that the player has to look for, right? So it is really just better to have, unless you're going to be reversing directions somewhere in the music, just do this, because it will save the harpist or whoever, pianist or whoever's got this marking. It will save that person time looking around to see if there is a down arrow somewhere, right? They will assume, oh, and also save yourself time just by selecting here, and you get a perfectly perfectly justified line, which you can actually extend if you want them to be longer, right? That's all very possible. Okay, so yeah, so that's just that little bit of craft there. Now, I actually like this. I like the way that this falls into the line of the melody with the playing, without being too much of a copy, like of a carbon copy of the piano part. It does come close, but since it isn't a prominent part, I'll give you a pass on that. Now, this is beautiful. This is absolutely great, and especially with this sort of mid to high register scoring on the flute, it just fits in perfectly. And there's a further spot later on in the work where you add a little bit of glockenspiel, orchestral bells, and it works really, really well. Okay, now here you've got basically doubling of the cello pizzicato. Bum, ba-dum, bum. Okay, that's all very cool. I like that a lot. It sounds an octave higher. This could actually have been scored an octave lower if you'd wanted. Be a very big, flabby kind of note. So maybe it's better just to leave it here where it can be nice and pinging. Okay, because it doesn't really need to be in the same octave, right? All you need is just a very beautiful resonant stroke with a very high, just a very nice quality sound. And it will reinforce whatever pitch is being heard more definitely in other instruments. Okay, and here, of course, you bring up the accompaniment an octave anyways, right? So it's actually a very simple, direct treatment here for the first statement. Bassoons, I like that. Or first bassoon going to clarinet. Now, did you notice that this just suddenly sounded like a clarinet and a bassoon? What if you had done this? What if we got rid of this, right? And then just dovetailed on this one note. What would it sound like? Right? It's just a little, or maybe had the dovetailing start on a shorter note, right? But yeah, but doing it this way. Hello? Hello? I'm doing fine. I'm living in my beautiful house, which I never want to move from for the rest of my life, and it's 100% paid. Okay, talk to you later. Bye. So just the thing about this is that if the two voices overlap like this, rather than just dovetailing on a single note as Rimsky-Korsakov and other orchestration teachers suggest, then you really get the feeling of the two voices rather than the transition, right? So here's another way that you could transition seamlessly. This is actually... Sorry. I had my finger resting on the wrong note there. There we go. Yeah, it's still not ideal. What if you did this? All right, let's go back to here. Actually, back to here. Yeah, see, so there's different ways of doing it. Actually, the method that I saw most people doing was to dovetail actually on this note right here, just right on this last little staccato. Seemed to be the smoothest choice. So anyway, yeah. Then now here there's an exception there. It seems like it's going to be like the two instruments are going to work together, but they actually don't. The bassoon is more of a contrapuntal part at first before. Well, I mean, it still does have counterpoint in terms of the voices changing directions and so on. So yeah. Anyways, it's not to get into that. But it's a nice little color coming in. So if this is really the plan here, then you can justify these two, that this kind of overlapping here at the octave. But anyway, I think it's all good, but I'm just being a little fussy here. So this is really nice. The oboes coming in and then transferring over to the flutes. Okay, and yeah, once again, this could be a shorter overlap to be more seamless, but it's still very cool, especially with the harp going on. Okay, now throughout all of this, the strings are scored pretty nicely. Now this is unnecessary, I feel. This down, up, down, up, down, up. I think you might end up having the player just fake this, right? They might go down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. And they can make two staccatos with different bow directions in a row feel like a slurred staccato. So anyways, I think it's a little, you don't have to worry about this. Just let the concertmaster or the first violist worry about, worry about that whole bow direction. Okay, but generally speaking, and also this is so great in combination with the harp. I just felt this was really excellent harp and pizzicato scoring. Okay, and worked really well. Like, you hardly need anything else going on here. You just have these octave and a fifth kind of arpeggiation going on while this plays along to it, and it works beautifully. Okay, so that was really nicely done, Douglas. Really enjoyed that. And then going on here, just making its way back down. This doesn't really develop or anything in the accompaniment, but it just kind of all comes together to set this up, this boom, 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 boom. And I noticed that that it's basically just back and forth octaves, but it's grounded by by these low octave notes. And so it sort of creates a slight mind twist, which I thought was very fun. Clarinets and second violins, starting off in octaves together, but then with the second violins bridging down so as to get out of the way more as the line gets lower and lower. That was a nice little solution as well. And little touch of tambourine. Now, I just wanted to backtrack. Yeah, okay. I wanted to make sure I didn't miss this one little thing, which is going to come up. All right. Okay. So this all works pretty well with just, straight violins coming in there, doing their thing. And then this was really, really cool, especially alongside the tambourine and harp. I felt it made it very, this reminds me a bit of Ravel's more Spanish influenced type of scoring and rhythms, to sort of bring that little accompaniment strategy that you had down here in the violas up to a higher place, right, alongside the tambourine. It was very cool. And then, of course, pedal tone in the tuba and little boop boops by the second horn there. Okay, now, bassoon carrying the melody down to a very low place. I thought that was really excellent. And the way that the cello and the viola played octaves together so that the cello and the bassoons became the strong voice and the viola became sort of like the upper overtone, really, and it really kept the focus on the bottom note. Now, you could have doubled this with clarinet above, and it would have sort of spread out the tone a bit, but it would still not, just the way that you scored it was better. Just like, to have a resonant lower voice, the resonance of the lower voice being expressed by a partner above that wasn't doubled. I thought that was really cool. This is nice. Okay, I love the harmonized upsweep. Okay, moving onwards. And then here we've got this, dun 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 dun. We've got more of that little Spanish kind of rhythm happening, doubled by flutes this time, and oboe taking this over. I would be slightly concerned here that the oboe would come off pretty weak compared to this trombone here, and of course, that note performer trombone sound was just really kind of fat and flabby. Just really, a first trombonist from a great orchestra is going to make this sound almost like a horn solo, right? Not like what we heard. But it's nice to have the doubling by the viola. That just really makes a huge amount of sense. Okay, and it's a great reiteration of the viola in a way, very, very funny, in a way that doesn't sound like what happened before at all. So that was just a very amusing touch. And then the little waltz is sort of changing direction, going ba dun dun ba dun 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 dun. I thought that was very, very cool as well. So yeah, and descending harmony with the horns, very simply done. Okay, I think that you need to put. I think you need to start your crescendo a little earlier in some of these things, right? So that like you have a four bar build rather than just this one last bar, right? What you could do is you could just put you could say crescendo at the beginning here, and then just put the hairpin at the end if you wanted to sort of add extra emphasis to these rising figures here, and then put in an invisible hairpin right here, and then you get extra oomph out of your playback, right? So just a thought if you are concerned with mock-ups. Now, this does not really say what it is, but I'm assuming that that's a snare because you've got that marked. And then, and then bass drum. I would actually prefer to see each of these as their separate single line. As if I were conducting this or preparing the score or whatever like that, I probably would have it all scored out like that. I know I'm saying like, if I were conducting this, and just recently I've been thinking that more and more, not that I really feel I have any talent as a conductor or any potential as a conductor, but, the skill set is really the same, except for directing physically, with your body, and also the whole emotional thing of leading a group of players, and then the whole career thing of just building up, putting notches in your belt of different orchestras that you have led and different performances you've gotten through, and the whole act of being up there. But just in terms of being able to study a score and know what needs to happen, know how to balance everything and everything else, that skill set's kind of the same. So I'm always thinking about it as if I were a conductor. I'm just kind of going the extra mile with my imagination. So this would need some kind of slurring, right? Otherwise, everybody's going yabba-dee-bee-dee-bee, and these guys are going dum-dum-dum-dum-dum, right? Okay, this is nice. The harmonization of the melody, I thought that was very cool. Very few people did this. Thirds, dun da 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 dun da 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 dum. That was very nice. I thought actually fairly good balance. Thirds in the flutes, thirds in the trumpets, and then you have tremolo thirds in first and second violins. You know what you could have done here? You could have had octaves here and octaves there, right? And then divisi, and then you could have doubled both of these voices with with a powerful string sound, rather than letting the trumpets stick out too much. But those trumpets are going to kill the strings anyways, so it's like it's not. There'll be a little bit of string sound down here if you do that, but it's if you're not going to really hear it anyways, then why put it in, right? So it's still a pretty secure strategy. And you got for the counter melody, you could have put in the A flat here, okay, or no, it's E flat. Sorry. You could have put in the E flat there because it's left out of the piano part, or it's sort of combined in the piano part as a rest, doesn't mean that you have to do a rest here, right? So anyways, Yeah, so we've got the stack here with of a 4 octave, a 4 octave counter melody stack here with the thirds, against the melodic thirds. That's really, really fun. And I also like, the support of the, I suppose this is first horn. There is more, you could have added more support here. When you got to here, you only used 2 horn lines, right? These both feel like lower horn lines, right? Like this could have been second horn. This could have been fourth horn. And then you could have had your first and third do yet other things, right? Anyway, I just feel that there was more that the horns could do here. So yeah, so actually fairly nice. I like this. I like this whole approach. Very, very cool. Okay, and then nice diminuendo into the cool down with the oboe. Doing the first little sally and then the clarinet. Who were the co-stars here? The trumpet coming out of the texture, and then the first horn coming out of the texture once again. Them answering each other. It just was just a lovely idea, and sort of, and also, almost dovetailing into each other from these 2 D flats an octave apart. That was really neat. And of course, like it's doubled by strings anyway, so there isn't the individuality. But you could just leave this first violin line out and have these speak more individually. String parts were pretty nice altogether, and then we get to our sort of call and response section. Bassoons versus flutes, and I was really happy to see your referencing back to the beginning accompaniment figures. I think that's always a really good strategy, just to tie things together so people are reminded of the texture that they heard before. And of course, hard to go wrong with this. Horns and lower strings, then answered by upper strings and horn and trumpet. I thought that was very, very cool. You kept the texture the same, but you kept the insinuation different, right? I would almost say you could just leave this the way it is, mezzo forte in the strings, and don't do your decrescendo till you get to here. That's what I would say. So, same thing here. Just do your diminuendo hairpin from the second beat of the next bar, right? So it stays strong, da 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 da, right? As opposed to da 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 da. And then the same thing here. Just leave this, move this over to here. And here, if this is piano, this should be pianissimo, right? Okay. And then you basically give the clarinet and then the bass clarinet coming in. And here I would say have the bass clarinet come in here instead of the 2 of them doubling, because you get phasing in your line, right? You might have heard a little bit of that already in the mock-up. Now, actually, it's really not that crucial, but you have such different articulation from your strings compared to your winds that there's a risk here that the 2 lines will be just completely distinguishable from each other, right? So the fact that you're doubling, it doesn't matter. It's sort of like clearly hearing 2 singers on the same thing who are both singing different words to the same part, right? That's going to be somewhat of the effect here because of the difference in articulation. And then, see, the same thing here. I would say staccato, right? Staccato all the way through. All the same, still very fun. Sorry. I was thinking this was bass clarinet. Sorry, but it's still going to be, you're still going to hear the combination there. Sorry, I just, you know what threw me off was the fact that I forgot to turn the transposition back on there. So that sort of threw me. I thought, oh, same pitch, and I just automatically clicked in, thinking that this was bass clarinet going, bass clarinet and B flat clarinet doubling each other. So sorry about that. Just my brain twisting. You see where trouble I get into when I don't see a transposed score? So anyhow, this is nice. These should be spread across 2 hands, but I know what you're doing here is like you want the roll to just go from bottom to top, and that is a weakness of Sibelius that they still have not solved, and that is to be able to assign a single rolling line and have it roll across all of the pitches in a single bar, right? And they don't do that. So yeah, but this is really, really nice and beautifully done. This is assuming, that you have a xylophone that can go all the way up there to high F. Some of them just stop at high C. Okay, so nice. Once again, this should be marked that this is a whatever this is. I'm assuming snare because that's the sound that comes through on Note Performer. Yeah, I would almost wonder if wire brushes would be a way of playing this without it getting a very military sound, even at a very soft volume. But otherwise, I was really happy with everything else in this. And boy, just so fun to look this over, Douglas. Just really exciting, and everything's so delicate that it all works together. Even these low flute notes. Okay, and of course they're just doubling the second violin, so it's not like there's a whole lot of individuality there. Okay, so really great. Now on to our last score, and once again, thanks everybody for submitting such uniquely different approaches in their scoring. All the way through. I mean, there were a couple of orchestration challenges in the past where there were a few submissions that were almost identical, but that did not happen in this one. And, I had actually twice as many scores than the last one that I did. I think that one I had around maybe 40, 45. This one was over 80, well over 80, maybe 83 scores, 80. Yeah, 82 composers, 83 scores, I think, something like that, or maybe 83 and 84. But yeah, very cool. Thank you so much, Douglas. Now on to our very last score for both, the entire challenge and for the Patreon supporters. And thanks everybody once again for supporting this.